Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
It is Monday, and all of our guests today, including Elliot Friedman, standing by down in Florida, sponsored by Passant Motors. It's March Mayhem this month at Passant. Score yourself a great deal on a new-to-you vehicle. Learn more at BASANTmotors.com. As he does every second Monday, Elliot Friedman is going to join us now from Hockey Night in Canada and the 32 Thoughts podcast down in Florida. NHL GM meeting is going on right now. Elliot, thanks for doing this. How are you, sir?
I'm good. How are you doing, Don?
Very well, very well. What's the focus of the NHL GM meetings? Are they going to do something about keeping goal scoring down?
God, I hope not.
It's fun, isn't
it? You know, we're seeing a lot of goals in these games now. I mean, it's scoring. As I said on Saturday night, hockey is always better with no goaltending or defense. So I hope we keep the goals coming. And you know, one of the first things that they did this morning, Don, was to talk about officiating. They do it every GM meeting. I'm curious about this one. You know, is there anything right before the playoffs that the GMs say that they really are concerned about or not?
Is there something that you can think of that they should be concerned about, officiating-wise?
Well, you know, because it happened in Toronto, and, you know, we are the center of the universe.
Yes.
I always wonder about that. You know, that play with Matthews in Arizona a couple of weeks ago where he was mad he didn't get the call in overtime and the Coyotes scored the game-winning goal. You know, we've had the slashing crackdown. We've had the cross-checking crackdown. I do wonder, you know, there was a penalty against McDavid the other night where he got clipped by Backlund. He didn't get him in the head, but it was close. And he got a penalty, and I think I was happy to see that call. I just wonder going into the playoffs, sometimes these GMs, they say something and they say, I don't like this. And if a few of them agree with it, then we see if we go anywhere. So we'll figure this out after the meeting's over.
Hey, we were talking about goals moments ago. Penguins over the Red Wings 11-2. Evgeny Malkin, his 13th career hat trick, got an assist as well. He's 59th all-time on the NHL points list. Do we appreciate him enough, Elliot?
No, I don't think we do. And part of it, like, you know, he was one guy who didn't make the NHL top 100. That blew me away a few years ago, Don. I think part of it is because I think Malkin is kind of liked at times, sort of, you know, if he didn't play with Crosby, he probably would have to take more of the spotlight than he does. And I think on some levels he really likes that. Like when he wants to talk, he's really charming and he's very funny. He's got a great sense of humor. I just don't think he likes doing it a lot of the time. And when you play next to Crosby, you don't have to worry about that. And sometimes I think that because he doesn't like the spotlight as much and because he plays with Crosby, he doesn't get all the respect he deserves. But I think everybody who plays against him know that when he's going, man, he's really going. It's going to be a fascinating offseason in Pittsburgh. You know, Letang, Malkin. They've got some big decisions to make there, very big decisions to make there.
Elliot, speaking of big decisions, there's going to be some in Vancouver as well. One of them is going to be the future of Bruce Boudreau, who's doing a great job. His record is well over 500. Any idea what is going to go on there with Boudreau and the Canucks down the road?
You know, well, first of all, on some level, Rick, I'm surprised it's even really a conversation. You know, and the results speak, and you know, since he's taken over, look at how well the team has played. So, you know, I listened to the Patrick Allvin interview last week with Dan and Stat, and you know, the question, the way he answered the question, it certainly opened the door to make you wonder, you know, what exactly is going on here. And you know, I think that's a question we're all going to kind of figure out. It seems shocking to me. You know, I'll say this: if for whatever reason Boudreau's not the coach there, I got to think there's some other teams that are going to be happy to have him. You know, the thing is, you know, sometimes people say, well, you know, maybe he doesn't have the biggest playoff success. Well, you still have to get into the playoffs, and that's a hard thing to do in a league where only 50% of the teams make it. And, he's breathed new life into your team. He's been good for a lot of your players. But the one thing I do wonder is he was hired by the owner.
Yeah.
And, Jim Rutherford came in later. And sometimes I always wonder, and so did Alvin came in later. And I don't always think it's the best thing, but I do think it happens where people sit there and say, we want kind of our own person. And, Mike Gillis didn't do that with Alain Vigneault. And for a long time, they were a very successful combination. So I don't necessarily like that way of thinking, but I do recognize that it happens.
Elliot, JT Miller, he's in the top 10 scoring, continues. He's been really good on this road trip. Actually, all the Canucks top players, Elliot, have been good on this road trip. Your thoughts on Miller and that number in the summer? It seems to keep going up. Does it not, Elliot?
Look, I think we all know what Miller's market value is going to be. And
Yeah.
it's going to be in the Zibanejad area.
Yeah.
And I think, I just think that the Canucks have to decide what they want to do. Do they want to do that? Do they not want to do that? The funniest thing about the whole Canucks situation over the last couple of weeks is, and last couple of months is Rutherford did an unbelievable job hiding the GM search. Now, remember how hard we were all working to try and figure out the names?
Oh,
And how much of a challenge that was?
Yeah.
And now that that's over, like everything's almost everywhere. It's actually kind of funny. But look, I think we all know where this is going. Ultimately, the Vancouver Canucks are going to have to make a JT Miller decision. They didn't do it now. They punted it to the summer, and we'll see where it goes. But I don't think it's impossible he stays. I don't think it's impossible he goes. But the biggest decision is they're going to know him better than everybody else, and how much of a long-term look. Hampus Lindholm just got traded from Anaheim to Boston because they're like, no more long-term deals.
Yeah.
And he got traded, Raquel got traded, Manson got traded, and we'll see how Vancouver feels about that.
Elliot, first time we've talked to you since the trade deadline came and went. Which team, in your opinion, and I'm going back a bit here, I realize that, which team, in your opinion, improved itself the most in terms of cup contenders?
The teams I really liked, I liked what Calgary did, even though they did it before the deadline.
Yep.
I liked what Colorado did. I really liked Lehkonen, and I like what Minnesota did. And I'll tell you this: I just love that everybody in the Eastern Conference loaded up. Like those Eastern Conference, Don, to me, what these teams said was, the Eastern teams think it's a wide open playoff. Anybody can win. Any of them can win, and they all got something. And the Western Conference teams, to me, they said, we're not as convinced it's so wide open. Because only a few of those teams loaded up. Colorado, Minnesota, Calgary, and St. Louis added Nick Leddy. And that was, I think, what stood out to me is it's a situation where the Eastern teams all think they can win. The Western teams aren't so convinced.
No, I mean, you look at the 8 teams that are going to make the playoffs in the East. Who knows? Did you get down to Florida today, Elliot, or yesterday?
I did. I got down there yesterday.
Okay.
So I'm down here. Today. It is the weather is very nice. My wife is pissed off at me because I guess it's crap in Toronto today. But the weather is beautiful here. Just a little bit of wind, Don. If they could ease on the wind, I think it would just be perfect.
I was going to ask you, is that from the GMs or the actual weather? But no, seriously, Elliot, I was just going to ask you what the buzz was like in Toronto, but you were down in Florida yesterday regarding the soccer.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you this. Like, I remember, Don, I used to go to soccer friendlies when I was a kid.
Yep.
And, I remember watching Canada-Mexico at Exhibition Stadium. And, I love soccer. And I don't know it as well as a lot of other people do, but I love it. And, I remember 86. And, there's a lot of people, young people now, like whenever I tweet about it, they're like, we've qualified for the World Cup before. This isn't the first time. And, Don, you know it, and Rick, you know it, and there's a lot of fans who know it. We only got into that World Cup because Mexico was the host.
Yeah.
And there's been 2 things that have happened in the last 3 years that I didn't know I would ever see in my lifetime. And that was the Raptors winning the NBA title and Canada earning a World Cup berth, and not because someone here was a host nation. And, you know, Don, you're my age, you know, like, did you ever think you'd see that stuff? It was incredible. Our ratings for soccer were enormous, and I think it's awesome.
Listen, I don't know how to answer that, Elliot. I'm just in shock that you think you're my age. Okay? Hey, enjoy the win down there, Elliot.
All right, thanks, Bobby.
Okay,
Take care, man. See you later, Rick.
Elliot Friedman down at the GM meetings at Del Boca Vista in Florida. Hey, Bruce Boudreau, come on. This would be so Canuck. You're going to let this guy go?
Never said that.
Come
No
on.
one said that. But what he did say, which, we've all heard, is the owner hired this guy, not the president and the GM. So, and when a new GM goes in, Donnie, what does he want? He wants his own guys. That's a pot.
Are his own guys going to be as successful
Nobody knows
and
that.
as popular as Bruce Boudreau has been so far? Yeah. I know he's 67. Maybe that plays into it. I mean, they got a football coach down in Seattle who's past his 60s.
Yep.
I know it's not working out all that well right now for Pete Carroll, but it would be just so Canuck for them to have this kind of success, whether they make the playoffs or not, and let the guy go that seems to be a big part of the success. Come on.
24
Can't be true.
He's 24-11. Any way you slice it up, Donnie, that's damn good.
A break. Donnie and Dolly, the team, on Check.